The son returned home with his rich wife and found his parents living with chickens. The BMW convertible turned onto the dirt road just after noon on a Saturday in late August. Rafael Santos gripped the steering wheel with one hand, his other resting casually on the center console, diamond Rolex catching the sunlight. Next to him, his wife Isabella adjusted her oversized sunglasses and looked out at the passing landscape with barely concealed distaste. "This is where you grew up?" she asked. Her voice carried that particular tone Raphael had come to recognize over their 2 years of marriage. Not quite disgust, not quite pity, something perfectly balanced between the two that made it even worse. "It's a small town," Raphael said, keeping his voice light. "Rural, but it has character." "It has poverty," Isabella corrected. She gestured at the houses they were passing. Small, some made of concrete blocks, others of wood, gardens with vegetables instead of flowers. Clotheslines strung between posts, old cars parked in dirt driveways. "How did you ever survive growing up here?" Raphael's jaw tightened, but he kept smiling. "You develop resilience, learn to work hard, appreciate what you have." "Well, you certainly worked hard to get out." She placed a perfectly manicured hand on his thigh. "And I'm glad you did. Otherwise we never would have met." They had met at the law firm where Raphael worked as a junior partner. Isabella was the daughter of the senior partner, old money, generations of wealth. She had never worked a day in her life and saw no reason to start. Raphael, on the other hand, had clawed his way up from nothing. Scholarship to university, top of his class, law degree, bar exam, job at a prestigious firm, marriage to the boss's daughter. He had made it, escaped, became someone who mattered. And today he was coming home to show everyone, especially his parents, exactly how successful he had become. He hadn't been back in 5 years, not since he got the job at the firm. Had been too busy, he told himself, too focused on building his career, on making partner, on proving himself to Isabella's family. But really he had been ashamed. Ashamed of where he came from, of the tiny house where he grew up, of his parents who worked manual labor jobs, of the poverty that clung to this town like humidity. He had sent money, though. Every month for 5 years, $500. Not a fortune, but enough to help. Enough to prove he hadn't forgotten them. Enough to absolve his guilt for staying away. And in his mind, he had imagined what they would do with that money. Fix up the house, buy new furniture, make improvements, live comfortably. He had called ahead this time, told his mother he was coming to visit, that he was bringing his wife, that he wanted them to meet. His mother had sounded strange on the phone, hesitant, like she wanted to say something, but couldn't quite get the words out. But Raphael had attributed it to excitement, to nervousness about meeting Isabella, to the natural anxiety of having a son return after 5 years away. The BMW turned onto an even smaller road, more dirt than gravel. The suspension bounced over ruts and holes. Isabella made a small noise of displeasure. "How much farther?" she asked. "Just another mile or so. The house is at the end of this road." "House," Isabella repeated, making the word sound like a question. Raphael's hands tightened on the wheel. He knew what she was thinking, that it wouldn't be a real house, not by her standards, not compared to the mansion where she grew up in the capital, not compared to the penthouse apartment they lived in now, but it was his childhood home, the place where his parents had raised him, where they had sacrificed everything to give him opportunities they never had. And he was about to show them how those sacrifices had paid off. The road curved, and there at the end was the property. Raphael's foot hit the brake. The BMW jerked to a stop in the middle of the road. Something was wrong. The house, his parents' house, the place where he had grown up, was gone. Not gone exactly, but wrong. The walls were still standing, but the roof had partially collapsed. The windows were broken. The door hung off its hinges. Weeds grew up through what used to be the porch. The whole structure looked abandoned, condemned, like it had been empty for years. What? Raphael couldn't finish the sentence. Is that it? Isabella asked. Is that where your parents live? No, I mean it was. But something must have happened. Maybe they moved. Maybe. Then he saw movement. Over to the left of the ruined house, near where the vegetable garden used to be, there was a structure Raphael remembered from childhood. The chicken coop. Larger than most people's coops, because his mother had always kept chickens. 24 at least, for eggs, for meat, for a little extra income at the market. The coop was still there, still standing, and there was smoke coming from a small chimney that had been added to the roof. Raphael put the car in park, got out. Isabella followed, her high heels immediately sinking into the soft dirt. Raphael, what is happening? Where are your parents? He didn't answer. He was walking toward the chicken coop, walking slowly, like he was approaching something he didn't want to see but couldn't look away from. The door to the coop opened. A woman stepped out. It took Raphael a moment to recognize her. His mother, Helena Santos, 58 years old, but she looked ancient. Her hair was completely white. Her face was deeply lined. She wore clothes that were little more than rags. Her feet were bare and dirty. She saw Raphael and froze. Her hand went to her mouth. Raphael! Her voice was barely a whisper. You came! Mama! Raphael couldn't believe what he was seeing. What? What are you doing in the chicken coop? A man appeared behind Helena. Raphael's father, Jose Santos, 62 years old. He looked even worse than Helena, thinner, more stooped. His clothes were covered in dirt and straw. Son, Jose said. There was something in his voice. Shame, maybe. Or defeat. You shouldn't have come. What are you talking about? I called. I told you I was coming, with my wife. Mama, Papa, this is Isabella. Isabella. These are my parents. Isabella had stopped several feet behind Raphael. She was staring at Helena and Jose with an expression Raphael couldn't quite read. Horror, maybe, or fascination, like she was watching something she couldn't believe was real. Nice to meet you, Isabella said automatically, but her voice was flat, empty. Helena wiped her hands on her skirt. I'm sorry. We're not prepared for visitors. We don't have anywhere to... the house is... Why are you living in the chicken coop? Raphael asked. Each word felt like it was being pulled out of him. Where are the chickens? What happened to the house? Mama, why didn't you tell me? Tell you what? Jose asked. That we lost everything, that we're living like animals. What were you going to do about it? You're busy with your important life, your fancy job, your rich wife. We didn't want to burden you. The words hit Raphael like a slap. I send you money every month, $500. For 5 years, that's $30,000. What happened to it? What did you do with it? Helena started crying, quiet tears that ran down her weathered cheeks. Raphael, we didn't... There was a debt, Jose said. His voice was hard, defensive. A moneylender. We had to pay him back. The money you sent went to him, every peso. What moneylender? What debt? Why didn't you tell me? Because you left. Jose's voice rose. You left this town, left us, went to the city, became someone important, someone who doesn't belong in a place like this anymore. Look at you. Look at your car, your clothes, your wife. You're embarrassed by us. We can see it on your face. That's not true. It is true. You stopped coming home, stopped calling except on holidays, sent money because it was easier than actually being here, than actually caring. Raphael felt Isabella's hand on his arm. Raphael, maybe we should go. This doesn't seem like a good time. No, Raphael shook off her hand. I'm not leaving until someone explains to me what happened. Why are you living in a chicken coop? Where did the house go? What happened? Helena and Jose looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Helena sighed. "Come inside," she said. "We'll explain everything." 7 years earlier, Raphael was 23 years old, and he had just received the acceptance letter from law school in the capital. Full scholarship, everything paid for, 3 years of study, and then he would be a lawyer, would have a career, would be someone who mattered. He stood in the small living room of his parents' house, the house that was still whole then, still standing, still a home, and showed them the letter. "I got in," he said. "Full scholarship to the best law school in the country." Helena's face lit up. "Oh, Raphael, that's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." Jose nodded, more reserved, more cautious. "That's good, son. Very good. But the capital is expensive. Even with a scholarship, you'll need money for living expenses, for food, for books." "I'll work," Raphael said. "I'll find a job. I'll manage." "The capital is 300 miles away," Jose continued. "You'll be gone for 3 years, maybe more. I know, but this is my chance, my opportunity to make something of myself." "And what about us?" Jose asked. Not accusatory, just curious. "What happens to us while you're gone?" Raphael looked at his parents, at the small house, at the life they lived, working dawn to dusk for barely enough to survive. His mother cleaning houses, his father doing construction work when he could get it, farm work when he couldn't. And he thought, "I can't end up like this. I can't spend my life breaking my back for nothing. I have to get out." "You'll be fine," Raphael said. "You've always managed. And once I'm a lawyer, once I have a good job, I'll send money home. I'll help you. I'll make sure you're taken care of." Helena smiled through tears. "We don't need money, mijo. We need you. But we understand. You have to go. You have to chase your dreams." Jose was quiet. Then he said, "Before you go, there's something we need to discuss. Your grandfather's debt." Raphael frowned. His grandfather had died 2 years ago. "What debt?" "Your grandfather borrowed money from a moneylender in town, Señor Vargas, 5,000 pesos, to pay for medical treatment when your grandmother was sick. But Abuela died 3 years ago. Shouldn't the debt be paid by now?" "The interest," Jose said heavily. "Your grandfather couldn't pay it back before he died. The debt transferred to me, but with the interest it's grown. It's now 7,000 pesos. 7,000. Raphael's mind raced. That was more than his parents made in 6 months. How can the interest be that high? Señor Vargas charges 30%, compounded monthly. The debt grows faster than we can pay it. That's illegal. Maybe in the capital, not here. Here, people like Vargas make their own rules, and people like us have no choice but to accept them. Can't you just refuse to pay? It was grandfather's debt, not yours." Jose's laugh was bitter. "You think it works like that? You think we can just say no? Vargas owns half this town. He has connections. Power. If we don't pay, there will be consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind we don't want to find out about." Jose looked at his son. "I'm telling you this so you know, so you understand that while you're in the capital studying law, we're here dealing with this. We'll manage, we always do, but you should know." Raphael felt guilt twist in his stomach. His parents were struggling with this debt, and he was leaving, going to the capital, chasing his dreams while they dealt with reality. "I'll help," he said. "Once I'm working, once I have money, I'll help you pay it off." "That's not why I told you," Jose said. "I told you so you would understand, so you would know what life is really like for people like us, so you wouldn't forget where you came from." But Raphael did forget, or at least he tried very hard to. Present day. The interior of the chicken coop had been converted into living space. Barely. The chickens were gone. "Sold off," Helena explained quietly, "to pay debts. In their place was a mattress on the floor covered with threadbare blankets, a small camping stove, a few pots and pans, some clothes hanging from nails driven into the wooden walls, a bucket for water, Another bucket that was obviously serving as a toilet. This was where his parents lived. This was what $30,000 of his money had paid for. Raphael stood in the doorway, unable to enter. Isabella had stayed outside, unwilling even to approach. "Tell me everything," Raphael said, "from the beginning." Helena and Jose sat on the mattress. They looked small, defeated, ashamed. Jose spoke first. "After you left, we started paying down the debt, little by little. 50 pesos here, 100 there, whatever we could spare after food and necessities. But the interest kept growing," Helena continued, "faster than we could pay. Every month we owed more than the month before." "I was sending you money," Raphael said. $500 a month, that's more than 6,000 pesos. That should have been enough to pay it off in a year." "It would have been," Jose said, "if that was the only debt." Raphael's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "You got sick," Helena said to Raphael. "Don't you remember, in your second year of law school? You called us, said you needed money for medicine, for a doctor." Raphael did remember. Pneumonia. He had been sick for 2 weeks. The university clinic had helped, but he needed antibiotics, needed treatment beyond what the free services offered. He had called his parents, desperate, asking for help. "I sent 2,000 pesos, Jose said. "Everything we had saved. And when that wasn't enough, I borrowed more from Vargas, 3,000 pesos. You didn't tell me that. What were we supposed to say? Our son was sick. He needed help. We weren't going to let money stop us from helping you." "So the debt grew," Raphael said quietly. "It grew," Jose confirmed. "And then you called again, 6 months later. Said you needed money for books, for fees the scholarship didn't cover. We sent more, borrowed more. And then for your graduation," Helena added. "You needed a suit, needed to look professional for job interviews. We sent money for that too. You borrowed from Vargas every time. Where else would we get it? We're poor, Raphael. We don't have savings. We don't have credit cards. We have Vargas, and every time we borrowed, the debt grew." Raphael felt sick. All the times he had called home asking for money, never demanding, always asking, always explaining why he needed it. And his parents had sent it, every time, without complaint, without telling him what it cost them. "By the time you graduated and got your job," Jose continued, "we owed Vargas 15,000 pesos, plus the original 7,000 from your grandfather's debt, 22,000 total. The money I was sending you went to Vargas, every peso. We paid him first, because if we didn't, he threatened to take the house, to take everything. But he took it anyway," Raphael said. Helena nodded. 2 years ago, we couldn't keep up with the payments anymore. The interest had grown too much. Vargas said we could either pay the full amount, which was by then 35,000 pesos, or he would take the house. 35,000? How did it grow that much? Compound interest. Penalties for late payments, fees Vargas added whenever he felt like it. The number just kept growing, no matter how much we paid. So he took the house. He took everything, Jose said. His voice was flat, empty. The house, the land, the furniture, everything we owned, said it barely covered what we owed him. And you've been living here ever since. Where else would we go? We have no money, no family except you. This was the only structure left on the property, so we sold the chickens, used the money to buy a stove and some basic supplies, and we've been living here." Raphael looked at his parents, really looked at them, at the defeat in their eyes, the shame, the exhaustion of 2 years living in a chicken coop because they had tried to help their son. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice came out hoarse. "Why didn't you ask me for help?" "We did," Helena said quietly. "I called you 1 year ago. Do you remember?" Raphael searched his memory. 1 year ago. He had been busy, working on a big case, preparing for the partnership meeting. Isabella had been planning their anniversary party. There had been a call from his mother. He remembered now. He had been in the middle of something, had told her he would call her back. He never had. You called, Helena continued, and I tried to tell you, tried to explain about the house, about Vargas, about how we were living. But you said you were busy, said you would call back. You never did. And I didn't try again, Jose added, because you had made it clear. You had your own life, your important life, and we were just a reminder of where you came from, of the poverty you had escaped. That's not true, Raphael said. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew they were partially true. He had been avoiding his parents, had been ashamed of them, had sent money to absolve his guilt, but hadn't wanted actual contact, actual involvement in their lives. You stopped coming home, Helena said. Stopped calling except on holidays, and even then you kept the conversations short. You didn't want to know about our lives. You just wanted to send money and feel like you had done your duty. Raphael had no response, because she was right about all of it. And now you show up, Jose said, in your fancy car with your rich wife, wanting to show off how successful you've become, wanting us to see how far you've come. But you didn't want to see how far we had fallen. Outside they could hear Isabella talking on her phone, making arrangements, probably calling for a car service to pick her up, to take her back to the capital, to get her away from this place and these people as quickly as possible. I didn't know, Raphael said. The words felt inadequate, insufficient. I should have known, should have checked, should have cared enough to actually know what was happening in your lives. Yes, Jose said simply. You should have. They sat in silence, the truth hanging between them like a physical thing. Raphael wanted to make excuses, to explain, to justify, but there was nothing to say. No excuse good enough, no explanation that would change the fact that while he was building his successful life, his parents had lost everything. I'll fix this, Raphael finally said. I have money. I'll pay off Vargas. I'll get the house back. The house is gone, Jose interrupted. Vargas sold it to some developer from the capital. It's being torn down next month to make room for vacation homes. Rich people from the city want to build summer houses here. Your house, our house, the place where you grew up. It's gone, Raphael. You can't get it back. The finality of those words hit Raphael like a physical blow. The house was gone. His childhood home, the place where his mother had taught him to read, where his father had taught him to fix things, where he had dreamed of escaping. It was gone, and he couldn't get it back, couldn't fix it with money, couldn't undo the damage. Then I'll build you a new house, Raphael said. I'll buy land. I'll hire builders. I'll make sure you have somewhere proper to live. With what money? Jose asked. You spent it all on your fancy apartment, your expensive car, your rich wife's expensive tastes. You send us $500 a month because that's all you can spare after maintaining your lifestyle. Don't pretend you have enough to build us a house. He was right again. Raphael's salary was good, but most of it went to maintaining the lifestyle Isabella expected. The penthouse, the car, the vacations, the country club membership, the designer clothes. After all that, $500 a month was all he could send without Isabella noticing and asking questions. Then I'll take out a loan, Raphael said. I'll borrow money. No. Helena's voice was firm. No more debt. No more borrowing. We've spent enough of our lives drowning in debt because of money we borrowed to help you. We're not doing it again. Then what do you want me to do? Raphael's voice rose. You're living in a chicken coop. You've lost everything. What am I supposed to do? Just walk away? Send you $500 a month and pretend everything is fine? That's what you've been doing for 5 years, Jose pointed out. Raphael stood up. He couldn't breathe in here, couldn't think. He stumbled out of the chicken coop into the afternoon sunlight. Isabella was standing by the BMW, still on her phone. She looked up when Raphael appeared, ended her call. I've called for a car, she said. It will be here in an hour. I'm going back to the capital. You can stay if you want, but I'm leaving. Isabella, these are my parents, living in a chicken coop. Yes, I noticed. Her voice was cold, clinical. Raphael, I married you because you were successful. Because you came from nothing and made something of yourself. Because you were impressive. But this, she gestured at the ruined house and the chicken coop. This is pathetic. Your parents are pathetic, and if you stay here wallowing in guilt, you'll become pathetic too. They're my family, and I'm your wife. Choose. Raphael looked at her, really looked at her, at the beautiful face and the expensive clothes and the complete lack of compassion, at the woman he had married because she represented everything he wanted to be, everything he wanted to have. And he realized he didn't know her at all, didn't love her, didn't even like her very much. He had married an idea, a symbol, a trophy that proved he had made it, that he was no longer the poor kid from the rural town, that he was someone important. But standing here, looking at his wife's contempt for his parents, he realized that becoming someone important had cost him everything that actually mattered. Go, he said. Go back to the capital. I'll call you later. If you stay here, Isabella said slowly, don't bother calling. We're done. Then we're done. She stared at him. Clearly hadn't expected him to agree. Had expected him to choose her, to abandon his parents again, to maintain the life they had built together. But Raphael was tired of pretending, tired of being ashamed, tired of the guilt that had been eating at him for 5 years. Fine, Isabella said. She got into the BMW without another word, started the engine, drove away down the dirt road, leaving a cloud of dust in her wake. Raphael watched her go, felt nothing, no regret, no sadness, just a strange sense of relief. He turned back to the chicken coop. His parents had come outside and were standing together, watching him. She left, Raphael said. We know, Helena replied. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything, for leaving, for not caring, for not being here when you needed me. Jose shook his head. We don't want your apologies. We want you to understand. To really understand what you threw away when you left here, when you decided we weren't good enough for your new life. I know, Raphael said. I understand, and I want to make it right. I want to help you. Please let me help you. How? Helena asked. By building us a house we don't need, by throwing money at the problem. That's not help, Raphael. That's just more guilt. Then what do you need? Tell me what you need and I'll do it. His parents looked at each other. Then Helena said, We need our son back. The real one. Not the stranger in the expensive suit who sends money and stays away. We need you to be here, to be part of our lives, to care about us as people instead of as a problem to be solved with money. Raphael felt tears burning his eyes. I don't know how to do that. I've spent so long being someone else, being the successful lawyer, being ashamed of where I came from. I don't know how to go back. You don't go back, Jose said. You move forward. But you bring us with you, instead of leaving us behind. 5 years. Earlier, Raphael stood in the conference room of the law firm, looking at the partnership contract. This was it. The moment he had been working toward for 5 years. Partner at one of the most prestigious firms in the country, 6-figure salary, profit sharing, his name on the door. The senior partner, Eduardo Mendez, stood across the table. Next to him was his daughter, Isabella. She smiled at Raphael, a calculated smile. She had been pursuing him for months, making her interest obvious, making it clear that if he wanted to move up in the firm, dating her would help. Sign it, Eduardo said, sliding a pen across the table. Make it official. You'll be the youngest partner we've ever had. Raphael picked up the pen, thought about his parents back in the rural town, working hard, struggling with debt he didn't know about yet, living their lives while he built his. He had called them last week. told them about the partnership opportunity. His mother had been so proud, his father had been quieter, had asked, "When will we see you again?" "Soon," Raphael had promised. A lie. He knew it was a lie, even as he said it. He wasn't going home anytime soon. Couldn't risk Eduardo or Isabella seeing where he came from. Couldn't let them know the truth about his background. He had created a fiction about his past. Told them his parents lived in a modest but comfortable house. That his father was a respected contractor. That his mother was a teacher. Small lies, but they painted a picture of a different life. A better life. A life he could be proud of instead of ashamed of. "Raphael," Eduardo prompted. "Everything all right?" "Yes, sorry, just thinking about how much this means." Raphael signed the contract, his name in black ink, permanent, official. He was now a partner, someone important, someone who mattered. Isabella came around the table, kissed him. "We should celebrate," she said. "Dinner at that place you love, then drinks. Then—" She smiled suggestively. They had been dating for 6 months. Raphael knew it was strategic, knew she was dating him because her father approved, because marrying a partner would keep the money in the family, because he was acceptable, but he didn't care. She was beautiful, sophisticated, everything he thought he wanted, and being with her meant being part of the right world, the successful world, the world that didn't include chicken coops and moneylenders and poverty. 3 months later, they were engaged. 6 months after that, married. A lavish wedding that cost more than his parents made in 10 years. They had been invited but hadn't come. His mother said she was sick. His father said they couldn't afford the travel. Raphael had been relieved, hadn't wanted them there anyway, hadn't wanted his colleagues to meet them, to see the truth, to know that he wasn't really one of them, that he was just pretending, and he had been pretending ever since. For 5 years, pretending to be someone he wasn't, pretending his past didn't exist, pretending his parents didn't exist, beyond the $500 he sent every month, until today, until he came home and couldn't pretend anymore. Present day, Raphael spent the rest of the day with his parents. Really, with them. For the first time in 5 years, they showed him their life, the small vegetable garden they maintained, the creek where they got water, the path to town where they walked to buy necessities. They were surviving. Barely, but surviving. As the sun set, Helena made dinner on the camping stove. Rice and beans, some vegetables from the garden, simple food, but she made it with care, with love. They ate sitting on the ground outside the chicken coop. 3 people sharing a meal that would have embarrassed Raphael yesterday, that would have made him want to hide, to leave, to pretend it wasn't happening. But today he ate, and he listened as his parents talked, about the town, about the neighbors, about their lives. Small lives, simple lives, but their lives. And for the first time in years, Raphael actually cared. "There's something else you should know," Jose said as they were finishing the meal. "About Vargas. What about him? He wants this land, the chicken coop, everything. Says we're squatters on property he owns, gave us until the end of the month to leave. But this is your land, your property. He can't just take it. He owns the deed to the house, claims that includes the land. And the chicken coop is part of the property. That's not legal. The coop was built separately. It's not part of the main house." Jose smiled slightly. "Listen to you, talking like a lawyer. Maybe that expensive education was good for something after all." Raphael felt something shift in his chest, an idea forming. "I am a lawyer, and Vargas doesn't get to steal from you anymore. I'm going to fight this." "Raphael, no. Let it go. We'll leave. Find somewhere else. We've lost enough fighting him." "No, Raphael's voice was firm. I let you down. I wasn't here when you needed me, but I'm here now. And I'm not letting some corrupt moneylender take the last thing you have. What are you going to do? Helena asked. What I should have done 5 years ago. Use my law degree for something that matters. For someone who matters. I'm going to take down Vargas, and I'm going to get back everything he stole from you. You can't fight him, Jose said. He has connections, power, money. And I have the law, real law, not the corrupt version he operates under. I'm going to expose him, prove his lending practices are illegal, get back every peso he stole from you and everyone else in this town. That could take years. Then it takes years. I'm not leaving again. I'm staying right here, fighting this, making things right. Helena's eyes filled with tears. But what about your job? Your life in the capital? What life? A wife who left me the first time things got difficult. A job where I defend rich people who don't need my help. An apartment I can barely afford. That's not a life. That's just an expensive prison. And if you lose, if Vargas wins, you'll have given up everything for nothing. Raphael looked at his parents, at the chicken coop behind them, at the ruined house, at everything that had been lost while he was busy pretending to be someone else. I've already lost the things that matter, he said. My relationship with you, my integrity, my sense of who I really am. If I can get those back, nothing else matters. They talked late into the night, made plans, discussed strategy. For the first time in years, Raphael felt alive, felt like he was doing something that mattered, something real. As he lay down to sleep on the floor of the chicken coop, refusing his parents' offer of the mattress, insisting they take it, Raphael thought about the path that had brought him here. He had spent so long trying to escape this place, this poverty, this life, had worked so hard to become someone different, someone successful, someone important, and in the process, he had lost himself, had become someone he didn't recognize, someone who cared more about appearances than people, more about success than family, more about money than love. But maybe it wasn't too late. Maybe he could find his way back, not to who he was before. He had changed too much for that, but to someone better, someone who used his success to help instead of to escape, who remembered where he came from instead of being ashamed of it, who measured worth in relationships instead of bank accounts. Maybe he could become the person his parents had raised him to be. Before the world taught him to be ashamed, before success became more important than integrity, before he forgot that the greatest privilege in life wasn't wealth or status, but the love of good people. Tomorrow he would start fighting, would go to town, would confront Vargas, would begin the long, difficult process of making things right. But tonight he slept in a chicken coop next to his parents, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt like he was home. The next morning, Raphael woke to the sound of roosters. Except there were no roosters anymore. The sound was coming from a neighbor's property, a reminder of what this building used to be, what it was supposed to be. He sat up. His back ached from sleeping on the hard floor. His clothes, the expensive suit he had worn yesterday, were wrinkled and dirty. He looked ridiculous. A lawyer dressed for the boardroom sleeping in a converted chicken coop. His parents were already awake. Helena was making coffee on the camping stove. The smell filled the small space, rich and familiar, the same coffee his mother had made every morning of his childhood. "Good morning," she said when she saw him awake. "How did you sleep?" "Terribly," Raphael admitted. "But I'll survive." Jose laughed. "Your fancy bed in the capital made you soft." "Probably." Raphael accepted a cup of coffee from his mother, sipped it. It was perfect, exactly the way he remembered. "Thank you, Mama." "For what?" "For the coffee, for not giving up on me, for still being here when I finally came back." Helena smiled, sad but genuine. "You're our son. We never gave up. We were just waiting." After coffee and a simple breakfast of bread and fruit, Raphael prepared to go into town. He needed to find Vargas, needed to start understanding the full scope of what had happened, needed to build a case. "I'll come with you," Jose said. "You don't have to." "I'm coming. If you're going to fight for us, we should fight with you." They walked into town together, Raphael in his wrinkled suit, Jose in his worn work clothes, father and son, walking the same roads Raphael had walked as a child. But everything looked different now, smaller, sadder, or maybe Raphael was just seeing it clearly for the first time. The town center was a small plaza with a church, a few shops, a market. People stopped and stared as Raphael and Jose walked by. Raphael could see the recognition in their eyes. The boy who left, the one who made it, who became someone important, walking next to his father, looking like he hadn't slept, looking like he belonged here again. Vargas's office was above the pharmacy, a small space with a sign that read Vargas Financial Services. Raphael almost laughed. Financial services, like it was a legitimate business instead of predatory lending that destroyed families. They climbed the narrow stairs, knocked on the door. A voice called out, "Come in!" The office was nicer than Raphael expected. Decent furniture, a large desk, filing cabinets, everything organized and professional looking. And behind the desk sat Vargas himself. He was younger than Raphael expected, maybe 50, well-dressed, confident. He looked up when they entered and smiled, a practiced smile. A salesman's smile. "Jose Santos," he said. "To what do I owe the pleasure? Here to make a payment?" "No," Jose said. "I'm here with my son, Raphael. He's a lawyer." Vargas's eyes moved to Raphael, assessed him, the expensive suit, the confident bearing. A flicker of something, concern maybe, crossed his face before the smile returned. "A lawyer. How impressive. I've heard about you, the local boy who made good. Congratulations on your success." "I'm here about your lending practices," Raphael said. "Specifically your dealings with my parents. All legal and documented. They borrowed money, failed to pay it back. I had every right to seize their property. At 30% interest, compounded monthly, that's usury. That's business. High-risk borrowers pay high interest. If they don't like the terms, they don't have to borrow. Except they do have to borrow. Because you've created a system where you're the only option, where people have emergencies and no choice but to come to you. And then you trap them in debt they can never escape." Vargas leaned back in his chair. Strong words. "Do you have any proof of wrongdoing? Any evidence that I've broken any laws?" "I will. I'm going to go through every loan you've made, every contract, every transaction, and I'm going to find the illegality. And then I'm going to sue you for everything you've taken from people in this town. Good luck with that." Vargas didn't look worried. "But I should warn you, I have lawyers too. Good ones, expensive ones, and they've made sure everything I do is technically legal." "Technically legal isn't the same as right." "Maybe not. But it's enough to keep me out of court, and even if you do sue, even if you somehow win, it will take years. Years your parents don't have. They're old, broken. How much longer do you think they can live in a chicken coop?" The words were designed to hurt, to make Raphael feel guilty, to make him give up, and they almost worked. But then Raphael remembered his mother's face when she talked about the house, his father's defeat, the years they had lost. "I have time," Raphael said. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here, fighting this, for as long as it takes." "You're giving up your career in the capital, your fancy life? For what? A principal? Please. You'll be back in a week, back to your real life. This is just guilt talking. It will pass." "Maybe it will. But until it does, I'm going to make your life very difficult." Vargas stood up. The friendly mask dropped. "Let me give you some advice, boy. You think you're special because you went to law school, because you have a degree? You're nothing, just another poor kid from a poor town. You don't belong in the capital. You don't belong with those people. You're one of us whether you like it or not, and people like us don't win against people like me. We'll see about that." Raphael turned and walked out. Jose followed. They didn't speak until they were back out on the street. "He's right, you know," Jose said quietly. "This will take years, maybe decades, and you'll lose everything fighting it. Your career, your money, maybe your freedom if Vargas decides to play dirty. I know. And you're still going to do it?" "Yes." "Why?" Raphael thought about that, about the real reason. Not just guilt, not just wanting to make things right, but something deeper. Because for the first time in 5 years, I feel like I'm doing something that matters, something real. I've been defending corporations and rich people who don't need my help, who pay me obscene amounts of money to help them get richer. And I was good at it. Made partner, made money, made a name for myself. He paused. But I wasn't happy, wasn't fulfilled. Felt like I was wasting my life on things that didn't matter, and I didn't know how to stop, how to change, how to find meaning. And this gives you meaning. Fighting an unwinnable fight against a moneylender in a poor rural town? Yes, because it's not just about Vargas. It's about who I want to be, about using my skills for something good, about standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, about being the kind of person my parents raised me to be instead of the kind of person I became. Jose nodded slowly. "Your mother will be proud. What about you? I'm angry. You threw away your life, became someone important, and now you're throwing it all away to come back here, to fight a fight you'll probably lose. It's stupid and reckless and irresponsible." Raphael felt his heart sink. Of course his father wouldn't understand, wouldn't approve, would see this as just more proof that Raphael didn't think things through. "But," Jose continued, "it's also brave and noble, and the most like yourself I've seen you in years, so yes, I'm proud too." They walked back to the chicken coop together. Raphael's mind was already racing, planning, strategizing. He would need to research usury laws, find precedents, build a case. He would need to interview other people Vargas had loaned money to, document the pattern, prove systematic abuse. It would take months, maybe years, and he would lose his job at the firm, lose his apartment, lose everything he had built in the capital. But maybe that's what he needed to lose. Maybe all those things were just weight holding him down, keeping him from being who he really was, who he was supposed to be. When they got back, Helena had visitors, 3 women from town. They were standing outside the chicken coop talking to her in hushed voices. They looked up when Raphael and Jose approached. One of them, an older woman Raphael vaguely recognized from childhood, spoke up. "Is it true?" she asked. "You're going to fight Vargas?" "Yes. He took my house too," she said. 3 years ago. Said I owed him 15,000 pesos. I thought I paid it off, but he said the interest made it grow. Took everything. I've been living with my daughter ever since." Another woman spoke. "He took my husband's truck, said we missed a payment. We didn't. We paid on time, but he said he never received it. No proof, no receipt, just his word against ours." The third woman was younger, maybe 30. "He's threatening to take my land. Says I owe him 20,000 pesos. I don't. I borrowed 5,000, paid back 7. But he says the interest means I still owe more. I can't keep up with the payments. Don't know what to do." Raphael looked at these women, at their desperate faces, at the fear and anger and resignation in their eyes. They had all been victimized by Vargas, all been trapped in his system, all been powerless to fight back. "I'll help you," Raphael said. "All of you. Anyone in this town who Vargas has hurt. I'll build a case, sue him, make him pay back everything he stole." "How?" the older woman asked. "We have no money for a lawyer." You don't need money, I'll work for free. This isn't about money, it's about justice. The women looked at each other, hope dawning in their eyes. Fragile hope, the kind that's been crushed so many times, it's afraid to believe again. When do we start? One of them asked. Now, Raphael said. I need statements from all of you. Documentation, contracts, receipts, anything you have. We're going to build a case so strong Vargas won't be able to hide behind technicalities. Word spread quickly in the small town. By evening, more than 20 people had come to the chicken coop. All with stories, all with documentation, all with evidence of Vargas's predatory practices. Raphael took statements until late into the night, writing everything down, building a timeline, creating a pattern of abuse that went back decades. This wasn't just about his parents anymore. It was about an entire community, generations of people who had been exploited, who had lost homes and land and possessions to a man who called himself a financial services provider, but was really just a thief with a contract. As the last person left, and Raphael organized his notes by lamplight, Helena brought him coffee. You look tired, she said. I am tired, but I'm also energized. This is important, Mama, more important than anything I've done in my career. Your wife called, Helena said quietly. On my phone. I didn't know what to tell her. What did she say? That she's filed for divorce, that you have 30 days to collect your things from the apartment, that she hopes you enjoy your new life. Raphael should have felt something. Sadness, regret, loss. But all he felt was relief. Good, he said. That makes things simpler. You're really giving up everything, aren't you? Your marriage, your job, your life. I'm not giving it up. I'm trading it for something better, something real. Helena sat down next to him. Your father and I never wanted you to come back here. We wanted you to escape, to have opportunities we never had, to live a life we could only dream of. I know. But we're glad you're here, glad you came back, glad you're fighting, even if we lose, even if Vargas wins, we're glad. Raphael put his arm around his mother. She leaned against him, small and fragile but stronger than anyone he knew. We won't lose, he said. I promise. We'll fight and we'll win. And we'll get back everything he took from you, from everyone. And if we don't, then at least we'll know we tried, that we stood up, that we didn't just accept injustice. That matters too. They sat together in the converted chicken coop, mother and son, planning, hoping, building something out of the wreckage. And Raphael thought about the journey that had brought him here, from this small town to the capital, from poverty to success, from being someone who mattered to being someone who had lost himself, and now, maybe, back to being someone real. The road ahead would be hard, long, full of setbacks and defeats. Vargas had money and power and connections. Raphael had law books and determination, and a community of people who had been wronged. It wasn't a fair fight, but it was the right fight. And for the first time in 5 years, Raphael knew exactly who he was and what he was supposed to be doing. He was a lawyer, a son, a fighter for justice, and he was home. Let me tell you something about success. Raphael had everything society tells us to want. Good job, money, status, a beautiful wife, an expensive apartment, all the markers of having made it. And he was miserable, empty, living a life that looked good from the outside, but felt hollow inside. Because success without purpose is just expensive emptiness. Money without meaning is just numbers in an account. Status without substance is just pretending. Raphael spent 5 years pretending he was happy, pretending he was fulfilled, pretending his parents didn't exist, pretending he wasn't ashamed of where he came from. And it almost cost him everything that actually mattered. His parents lived in a chicken coop for 2 years, lost their home, lost their dignity, lost everything. while he was living in luxury, while he was sending $500 a month and thinking that was enough. But money is never enough. Not when what people really need is presence, attention, care, love. Raphael learned that lesson the hard way, but at least he learned it. At least he came back. At least he chose to fight for something that mattered instead of continuing to chase things that didn't. Now let me ask you something. Who are you pretending for? What life are you building that looks good but feels empty? Who have you left behind in your pursuit of success? Is there someone you've been sending money to instead of actually showing up for? Someone you've been avoiding because you're ashamed of where you came from? Someone who needs you but you've been too busy to notice? Tell me in the comments. Put their name. Tell me about the person you need to stop pretending for, the person you need to show up for. The person who deserves more than your money, deserves your time, your presence, your care. And if this story made you uncomfortable, if it made you see yourself in Raphael, good. That means you still have time to change, to choose differently, to go back before it's too late. Hit that like button if you felt something. Share this with someone who's so busy being successful they've forgotten what success is actually for. Someone who needs to be reminded that the people we love matter more than the things we own. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories like this. Stories about real people facing real choices. Stories that ask hard questions about who we're becoming and why. Stories that remind us what actually matters. Every week there's a new story waiting. Stories about family, about redemption, about the difference between looking successful and actually living with purpose. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And if you're the person who's been working so hard to escape your past that you've forgotten the people who loved you through it, go back, call them, show up, fight for them. Before you wake up one day and realize you've built a beautiful life that's empty. Before you come home and find the people you love living in a chicken coop. Before it's too late, that's everything. See you next week.